try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We've got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest and everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about how Bitcoin just took its biggest step towards bullishness yet. I'm very excited to let you know that this is great news for that theory of Bitcoin breaking bullish over the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, rather than having to wait a couple of months. Very, very excited to bring you today's episode because Bitcoin has now set a fresh high. Let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. Even before we get started today, the lighting is a little bit off. Let me fix that. Boom. Much better. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. Just want to give you a quick rundown. Even before we finish the intro, Bitcoin rallied aggressively over the last 24 hours. Ever since 10 a.m. yesterday when we were testing this uptrend around 30,500, Bitcoin would go on to rally after coffee and crypto ended. $1,250 up to $31,835. Excuse me, actually, it was $31,854, setting this as the high for the year. This is a yearly high that Bitcoin has just established. You can see that right here with this line at this point right here. I'll set this as a white line. This white line represents the local high for the year. Bitcoin has never traded at this range in the year of 2023 as of yet. And due to that local high, you can see that we've actually broken all of the previous highs that we had set around $31,500. If you'll remember, the high that we set back during the last run in April of 2023, we saw Bitcoin rally up to $31,049. Bitcoin has now surpassed that by almost $1,000. And we are pulling back down and testing that previous local high as support, as you can see right here. All of this spells rally for Bitcoin. All of this tells us that a major breakout seemingly has just begun, at least the first leg of it, and relatively soon we could see Bitcoin, as people wake up here in the North American continent and start trading, Bitcoin could go through a major rally quite aggressively. So let's go ahead and discuss all of that in today's episode of Coffee and Crypto Live. Welcome if you are new here. This is the morning show. We bring you the latest and everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, especially technical analysis on Bitcoin. And I'm very excited to be here because I love bringing you guys cryptocurrency, educational content. And the mission of what we're doing here every single day is I want to help you guys achieve something that I call financial sovereignty. I was here on this stream about 2.5 years ago when I had this word just pop into my head. And I thought, man, that's an interesting word. What does that mean? And so I started to explore it on stream, and that word, that phrase was financial sovereignty. And the concept of financial sovereignty basically means this. It means having control over your finances rather than them having control over you. It means if you're using debt, then debt is a tool that you're using very, very cautiously and prudently, not a tool that you're enslaved to. If you're using credit cards, it's something that you are using because you want to be able to get the cash back, and you have it on automatic payments every single month, and you're being very financially responsible with that. You're spending. It means that you have a budget rather than just spending a bunch of money and having no idea where it went. You've heard people say, tell your money to where it should go rather than wondering where it went. It means having control over your life. It means taking leadership in your finances and witnessing and experiencing and being blessed by the radical change that it will make in your life. And I really do believe that financial sovereignty is the thing that I've been put on this planet to teach you guys. I'm very excited to teach you about it every single day. So we're going to be talking about hashtag FinSol. Let's see it in chat quite a bit today. We've got Paul Torelli in chat said, good morning. Good morning to you, Paul. Cheddar Roman said, hi. Sean O'Brien said, yo, yo. What's up, Sean O'Brien? Fishing for Crypto. Greg F. Crypto Mini Bike. Joe Bollier said, good morning, Jeb. And the shout out. Hello. Cheddar I want to say ramen, but it's Roman. You keep getting me. I know that's the. I'm pretty sure that's the joke. Sean Modi said morning. Good morning. Crypto Dude MX said morning. I'm my hero. Said sup homies. What's up? Sean Montalvo in chat. Aru Basu, Paper Sword, and more. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. Let's see. Got news about Evan, Crypto Mini Bike. Evan, I believe that was your gosh, it was an in-law, I believe you're talking about, that was in the hospital. Got news about Evan, Jeb, my daughter's stepbrother that drowned a little over a week ago. There's a chance the doctors say for him to wake up, but still need all the prayers he can get. Well, Crypto Mini Bike, God has done bigger in the past, and I know that he can do it again. So, Lord, we just pray that you would help him to recover from that in the mighty name of Christ Jesus. Amen. Let's keep going. Thank you so much for that, Crypto Mini Bike. Keep us updated. We'll keep Evan in our prayers. All right. Let's go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap. Bitcoin right now is sitting at $31,229. It is up 2.21% over the last 24 hours. It is up 2.9% over the last 7 days. Up 2.79% over the last 90 days. So pretty much across the board, we're looking at the exact same numbers here. Ethereum is currently sitting right below $2,000. Very excited about that. It is up 6% in the last 24 hours. And we can see over on the chart that it's actually managed to start rallying even more than Bitcoin. If you look at Ethereum here, it's gone through a pretty major rally here, all the way up to this uptrending level of resistance, pretty much all at once. There was this uptrending level of support that Ethereum had under it. We managed to bounce off of it. That's been a very long-term driver of Ethereum's price. And now we're managing to break up to this level of resistance, as you can see right here. This has some historical precedence, so it kind of makes sense that Ethereum would go up and test that resistance. But the remarkable thing is how quickly it did it. Ethereum managed to rally in just 8 hours, $114, 6.09%. That is a wonderful rally. And I believe, to kind of jump into our technical analysis here, I believe part of the reason why Bitcoin and Ethereum are rallying so much has to do with what we've spoken about over the last couple of days. If you remember, on Tuesday, we had a CPI report where we saw CPI come down by 1%. We saw core inflation even come down by several tenths of a percent. So that was very bullish as well. The tricky thing that we've been discussing so far this week is the fact that Bitcoin did not go through a bigger rally as a result of a huge CPI drop. Why not? Well, in short, I've explained this theory a couple of times, but in short, I believe that Bitcoin has been transitioning, or excuse me, the global economy and the world has been transitioning from this era of doom and gloom and catastrophe, so that there was more impetus to go and buy Bitcoin because it's a speculative asset that theoretically is the answer to a lot of the problems that the world is facing. We're transitioning away from that zeitgeist, that cultural norm, to a cultural norm where things seem to be going back to normal. Housing prices are doing well, theoretically anyway. There's some more stability. The debt ceiling thing has been kicked down the road another year or two. Nobody's really talking about the Russian-Ukrainian war, even though it's probably at its peak right now. And so there is quite a lot of sense that, okay, things are going back to normal. I can put confidence in the dollar, so I don't need to put confidence in Bitcoin. And so that's been kind of zapping some of the bullish enthusiasm towards Bitcoin, because if people don't feel like they need a revolution in the monetary system, then they're not necessarily going to feel the pressure to go and invest in a revolution in the monetary system. And so that's where I think that Bitcoin has suffered a little bit the last couple of months, as people start having this feeling of, all right, we're going back to normal. That being said, with CPI coming down, it did lead to a major rally in the stock market, and U.S. stocks have been up dramatically. As you can see, U.S. stocks are currently sitting at $450 over on the SPY, and we have broken bullish above this symmetrical triangle pattern right here. I'm sorry, this ascending triangle pattern right here, and we are setting fresh yearly highs on the SPY and the DJI. If we went over to the DJI, I believe I have it listed over here, right there. The DJI is also doing quite well. Coming up here, pretty much setting yearly highs. Not quite, but it's pretty dang close. DJI has been doing pretty well. So obviously the SPY's been doing a little bit better. It's a different index. It's got different kinds of stocks in it, but ultimately, both of these indices are doing quite well. And if we do see a breakout on the DJI, that is not the Mavic producer, that is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, DJIA, I guess you could say. If we do see a break bullish here out of this inverse head and shoulders pattern right here, then that would end up sending the market through a major rally as well. On top of that, Dixie has dropped below 100 for the first time in a very long time. It has been over a year since we've seen Dixie this low. And when we did see it this level before, it was in a major uptrend. If we look on the Dixie for the last time we dropped below this level, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of 2020, at the very beginning of the pandemic. We were sitting just above 100 and we dropped aggressively. Before that, you have to go all the way back to 2017, where we dropped through that 100 level. Doesn't happen very often, but the last couple of times that we've done it, the Dixie would go on to drop quite far. And by quite far, I mean down here about 10%, down to 89 to 90. And while I'm not so sure that the Dixie's going to do that, I would not be surprised to see the Dixie going through a major correction right now. And part of the reason for that is because the United States government, the Fed specifically, started hiking rates sooner than most of the other economies of the world because the United States wanted to be the leader in rate hiking, and they typically are going to be the leader in it. The ECB, the EU, the Canadian Central Bank, all these different banks started hiking their central bank rates after the Fed, and they started doing it in response to the Fed, and they didn't hike them as far as the Fed. So the United States dollar was absolutely the leader. But because we started first, we also kind of ended first. So there's plenty of other nations that are still hiking rates, even though we've paused. And since they are still hiking rates, and since there's still more, how would you say, hawkishness in those central bank committees, that is leading to their currencies outpacing the dollar now. And that's where you saw the Dixie go through this huge run-up, because the United States was leading the charge on getting inflation under control. It was leading the charge on rate hikes, on bringing down QE and turning it into QT, quantitative tightening. And now that has flipped the script because the United States dollar started first, so it went through a massive rally. Since it started first and it stopped first, now the other currencies around the world Other sovereign currencies are outperforming the dollar. And so remember, the Dixie is the dollar currency index. It is an index of the strength of the dollar against a basket of other world currencies. And so when Bitcoin's going down, that's basically when the Dixie's going down, that's almost similar to looking at the dominance chart on Bitcoin. If you're looking at the Dixie, a lot of times you're basically looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, but you're looking at like the dollar dominance chart. If you see the Bitcoin dominance go down, obviously it means that the altcoin dominance is going up because it is a ratio. The Dixie does have a lot to do with kind of the ratio between how powerful the dollar is to how powerful the other currencies are. So if it's going down, it means other sovereign currencies are doing well. And that actually does bode pretty well for the economy globally as a whole. When the Dixie's just absolutely moonshotting like this, a lot of times that has to do with a crisis, and that has to do with the dollar outperforming everything else, and the world's kind of getting left behind. Right now, the dollar's underperforming on the Dixie, but that's not a bad thing because the globally anyway, that's not necessarily a bad thing because it means that the other currencies in this basket are outperforming it, which means that those countries are doing well. In short, we live, whether you like it or not. I'm not going to get into globalization and all the politics around that. There's plenty of great arguments on both sides of that. I don't want to go in. That's not my fight. But what I will say is that globalization made possible the world that we live in today. Whether it's good for you, bad for this guy, good for that guy, bad for that guy, politics here, politics there, lizard person there, whatever. The fact of the matter is the world that we live in right now is not possible without globalization. And without globalization and without many different countries doing well, economically and financially, globalization doesn't work because you have to have this world where people are working together. That's why when I almost said the Soviet Union, that's why when Russia attacked Ukraine, it was such a big deal. It was the first time that we've had Western planes had their airspace closed. It's the first time that Western airlines didn't feel comfortable, other than a couple of incidents here and there with a bombing in Ukraine, didn't feel comfortable flying jets over Russia. Why? Because Russia shut down their airspace. That was one of the kind of the first steps towards the breaking of globalization. And globalization, just so you know, is completely collapsing this decade. And it's going to completely have to rebuild itself. And it probably will come back, but it's not going to be in the same way that it was before. All of this is going to tie into Bitcoin. I'm trying to give you backstory so you understand Bitcoin's movement today. I know it seems like I'm off on a rabbit trail, but I promise you I'm not. I'm just pulling in a bunch of threads from a lot of different directions. The rest of the world doing well is a good thing for the United States, generally speaking. It's a bad thing for certain people in the United States. There's actually something called the elephant chart. Let me see if I can find this. Elephant chart. And it has to do with the people that in the workforce that succeed and don't succeed because of globalization. If you look over here at this chart, you're going to see something called the elephant chart. There's a bunch of different ones here. You have the torso, you have the trunk, and then you have the tail. And the idea is that with globalization, you've had the people here in the 10 to 70% range. So this is most of the developing world, a lot of Europe doing very, very well. Then you get into this range where people are making more money than about 75% of all people, but they're not in the top 10%. They've actually suffered, and that's where a lot of the people that don't like globalization have come in. And that's something that I've experienced, and a lot of people have experienced. I'm not going to downplay that because it's a real phenomenon that you can see in data. That has not helped a lot of people, and this is a lot of American manufacturing right here that went overseas. That's where a lot of people that said, oh, I used to work in coal, oh, I used to work in steel, oh, I used to work in automotive. You're right here in that trough. And so the rest of the world is benefiting over here, but you're getting left behind. That's where a lot of people don't like globalization. But, and here's the kicker, and this is the point I'm going to make about the Dixie. Being down here in this trough is still a better place to be than in 1920 before industrialization, before globalization. My point is, for globalization to happen at all, and for this microphone to be made, for, you know, this wallet to be made, for this phone to be made, the things that we enjoy on a daily basis, it is not a zero-sum game. If other people do well, it normally is going to lead to us doing well. And so when the Dixie's going down, that typically means that other countries are doing well. And I wish good on other people. And so when I see other nations are doing well economically and they're prospering, that makes me happy. What I will say also is that the other thing is, with the Dixie going down, the United States is not really suffering right now. The United States is doing relatively well, just from you might say, oh, in 6 months it's going to be a recession. Right now it's doing kind of okay, better than it was. So with that moving in that direction, it's not something I'm worried about. What I will say is that gives more stability to the world. With the Dixie going down, that actually shows that the other countries around the world are starting to get their economies kind of stabilized also. Not on great foundation, but a little more stable than they were 2.5 years ago. That leads to a world that is more stable economically. That is a bad thing in the short term for Bitcoin. And so you might be wondering, well, wait a minute. I thought Dixie going down does mean that Bitcoin goes up. It normally does. In this case, the reason that Dixie is going down is because the world is stabilizing, which is removing, and now you're seeing how this is all tying in. With Dixie going down, it means the world is stabilizing, which is removing one of the incentives to buy Bitcoin in the first place. And that's why I think with Dixie going down, we have not seen as big of a rally on Bitcoin. But it is still going to have an impact. It's just not going to have as big of an impact as it would anyway. And that's where we talk about the rally that has happened on Bitcoin. As I told you yesterday, it might have been the day before, Bitcoin was probably always going to rally at some point soon, at least a small rally. Might not have been a giant breakout to $34,000, but at least a small rally relatively soon because of what the SPY's doing and because of what the Dixie's doing. And that's what we've seen. CPI stabilizing does remove a little bit of the retail incentive to invest in Bitcoin. People a lot of times invest in Bitcoin either one, because it's the next big thing, or number two, because they don't trust the dollar. Right now, they're gaining trust in the dollar, and they're not to a place where they are risky biscuits enough to want to invest in the next big thing. So it leaves this kind of trough. You want to talk about the trunk. Here's an example of the trunk. Over here, I'm just going to make up a chart and use this as an example. Over here, people are thinking, oh man, the world's going to explode. Let's go invest in Bitcoin. Over here, they're thinking, oh man, times are great. Next generation of Star Trek's coming out. Who are we going to nominate to be Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise? Let's go invest in the new earthen currency of the Terra, the Bitcoin market. And then right here, the transition is where Bitcoin doesn't really get a lot of attention. That's kind of where we are right now. We're in that trough, that attention dearth. So Bitcoin has still rallied anyway, and that does show that Bitcoin is strong. But if the global economy and the geopolitical situation was not in that state, I think Bitcoin probably would have rallied significantly more by now if either the world was less stable or more stable. But right now, we're kind of in that middle zone. Now, let's talk a little bit about whether or not Bitcoin will actually break out here. I am pretty encouraged that Bitcoin managed to break all the way up to 31,850. It's a very big movement, and a movement that I'm very, very, very much hoping will continue. That level is a level that we have seen, that we are going to see become very important for Bitcoin, 31,850, because it is now the local high that Bitcoin is able to contend with. The other thing to keep in mind here is that Bitcoin breaking to 31,850, pulling back and backtesting 31, basically shows us, guys, that we are now in a $30,000 range. We're now in a trading range of 30 grand. It basically tells us that Bitcoin is now living in the 30s. Not in the 30s, not in the 1930s, not in the 2030s, but in the $30,000 region. We go to the coordinates, set this at 30K. You can see we're now basically at the floor of the 30s. We can also see the same thing at the 20s. When Bitcoin jumped into the 20s, we pretty much set a floor here around 22, 23, and then we continued up and we ended up trading in the top half of it for most of the time. But we had to spend some time down here in the bottom half of the 20s before we could really break through. Right now, Bitcoin's kind of just getting his head above water, thinking, all right, we're going to get above 30, but we got to get that stability. We got to get the buoyancy to stay up here above 30, and I think that is what's going to happen. So are we going to break out sooner or later? Well, again, let's remember the fact that Bitcoin is finding support on its previous high. That is huge news. I cannot stress that enough. I know that only shows up on the hourly chart, but I cannot stress enough how important that is. This movement down here on the hourly chart of finding support on the previous local high is equivalent, theoretically anyway, to this spot right here, where we found support on the previous local high. Went through a major rally here. Now, of course, we're looking at different time frames. This is a correction this lasted 3 months. This is a correction this lasted 3 hours. But the idea remains the same. We're backtesting a previous major monthly a major level of resistance that was held for many months, and we seem to be holding on it. My encouragement for you is remember this trade that I gave you. This trade, as you can see, you would have just barely gotten in the top of it. This is why we have a very tight stop loss, and this is also why we wait for volume. If you look at your volume candles, then you will see we did have quite a lot of volume, but we stayed up here for just a couple of minutes. Come down here to the minute chart. Let me show you this. When we broke up here, we were up here above 31.750, which was the entry I gave you as an example. We were up here for just like a minute. If you saw the break up here and then you saw it come down, you would have, if you entered that trade, you would have immediately wanted to get out of it because we only stayed up there for a minute and said, nope, we're not getting up there. We're not staying up there. We're going to come back down. So that's why, though, I gave you that entry because it was well above the previous level. And if you do get in there with confidence, again, it's not as simple as just saying, okay, we hit the level, time to buy. You got to use some intuition there. Trading's a lot more complicated than just if this, then that. It's not a Boolean statement, guys. This isn't programming. But if Bitcoin bounces through here with a lot of volume again and starts its bounce here at 31K and we break through 31,750, I think that this may very well be a pretty solid trade that I gave you a few days ago. Entry around 31,750 contingent upon multiple factors such as high volume, such as staying above the level for 5-10 minutes at least, and then you use the tight stop loss, and then you have a couple of exits up here around 32,250, 32,750, and then I also give you another one, just kind of a long shot, moonshot exit around 33,670. Again, entry around 31,750. At this point, maybe 31,900, just so you catch an actual break, maybe something like that. 31,850, let's call it. 31,850. Boom. And doing that, remember your principles of trading. One of the major and very important principles of trading is that when you first get into a trade, use a very, 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 very tight stop loss. And then as you gain more profit, if the market continues moving in that direction, then that's where you can consider opening up that stop loss and giving yourself a little bit more leeway and grace. So guys, I'd love to hear your opinion. Where do you think Bitcoin is going? Where do you think Bitcoin is going next, and where do you think that breakout is going to take us? Do you believe that we're going to hold at 31K, and do you think that Bitcoin is going to be able to bounce and move further? All right, good deal. Good deal. All right. And of course, guys, we've now gotten to that point in the stream. We've now gotten to that point in the stream where we have a very important elephant in the room to discuss. And I don't think that this had as big of an impact on Bitcoin as some of you guys think it did, but I do think it's helpful. I do think it's definitely been helpful for Bitcoin. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about this too. Ripple Labs notches landmark win in SEC case over XRP. Whoo! Yes, this is good. Good news. All right. Ripple Labs did not violate federal securities law by selling its XRP token on public exchanges, a U.S. judge ruled on Thursday, a landmark legal victory for the cryptocurrency industry that sent the value of XRP soaring. XRP was up 75% by late afternoon on Thursday, according to Refinitiv Elcon data. The ruling by U.S. District Judge Annalisa Torres was the first win for a cryptocurrency company in a case brought by the U.S. SEC, though it did also give the SEC a partial victory. The SEC spokesperson said the regulator was reviewing the decision. Ripple chief executive Brad Garlinghouse, in an interview, called the ruling a huge win for Ripple, but more importantly for the industry overall in the United States. That's absolutely right. Coinbase, the largest U.S. crypto exchange, said it would again allow trading of XRP on its platform. We read Judge Torres' thoughtful decision. We've carefully reviewed our analysis, and it's time to relist, Coinbase Chief Legal Officer Paul Grewal said on Twitter. Let's kind of read through this and break this down, because there's a lot here. The SEC has accused the company and its current and former executives of conducting a $1.3 billion unregistered securities offering by selling XRP, which Ripple founders created in 2012. The case has been closely watched by the cryptocurrency industry, which disputes the SEC's assertion assertion that the vast majority of crypto tokens are securities and subject to its strict investor protection rules. The agency has brought more than 100 enforcement crypto actions claiming various tokens are securities, but many of those have ended in settlements. In the few cases they have gone to court, judges have agreed with the SEC that the crypto assets at issue were securities, which, unlike assets such as commodities, are strictly regulated, must be registered with the SEC by their issuer, and require detailed disclosures to inform investors of potential risks. Torres ruled that Ripple's XRP sales on public cryptocurrency exchanges were not offered as securities under law because purchasers did not have a reasonable expectation of profit tied to Ripple's efforts. Correct. I'm glad that was the ruling. Those sales were blind bid-ask transactions, she said, in which buyers could not have known if their payments of money went to Ripple or any other seller of XRP. That is true. Torres applied a U.S. Supreme Court case that said an investment of money in a common enterprise with profits that come solely from the efforts of others is a kind of security. That's the Howey test. XRP sales on cryptocurrency platforms by Garlinghouse and co-founder and former CEO Chris Larson and other distributions, including compensation to employees, also did not involve securities, Torres ruled. Partial win for the SEC. The SEC won a partial victory as Torres found the company's $728.9 million of XRP sales to hedge funds and other sophisticated buyers amounted to be unregistered sales of securities. And this is where it does get a little bit more murky than just saying that it's not a security. Because, and this is kind of why I want to talk about this a little bit later, Torres ruled that the Ripple's marketing aimed at institutional investors made clear the company was pitching a speculative value proposition for XRP that depended on the company's efforts to develop the blockchain infrastructure behind the digital asset. So, this, and I'm going to keep reading this here, but let's just kind of break this down. This is not exactly what you're thinking it is. This is not specifically saying that XRP is not a security. In fact, with it being a partial win for the SEC, in the way that it was a partial win for the SEC, XRP was basically kind of called a security by the judge, because when it was sold to the institutional investors, they were found liable for those being securities transactions, which means that XRP in that case was basically a security according to the judge, according to the ruling. The only reason that it wasn't considered a securities dealing on exchanges was because people didn't know who they were buying the XRP from. They were buying it from other people, other market participants, of course. But it basically lays out that there is a scenario in which cryptocurrencies are securities. And so this isn't exactly as great as you think it is. This is not a 100% win. This is almost, in the way I'm seeing, a little bit of a fair victory. Torres ruled that Ripple's marketing, I already read that. She said a jury must decide whether Garlinghouse and Larson's aided the company's violation of law, and the defendants cannot argue at trial that they lacked fair notice that XRP was a cryptocurrency. The law does not require SEC to warn all potential violators on an individual or industry level, she said. That is another thing to keep in mind. That's one of the SEC's major arguments, is that they've already got the rules, and it's not the SEC's fault that cryptocurrency has not been, that the cryptocurrency industry has not been put on notice that they, what am I trying to say here? It's not the SEC's fault that cryptocurrency companies don't realize that they are subject to those laws, which is kind of a cop-out, but unfortunately, that's what it's been called. Gary DeWall, an attorney at Catton Muchin Rossman, said the ruling should help Coinbase in fighting its own SEC case. It probably will, especially because Coinbase has nothing to do with the actual people, but this will almost certainly, actually, I'll just go ahead and say, help Coinbase dramatically in their case. Because Coinbase is acting as an intermediary. Coinbase is not an actual issuer of a token. As far as Binance is concerned, this probably is going to make things a little bit more difficult for Binance and Binance Token. So, to be honest with you, this is where I'm saying this is a little bit of a fair victory. I would not be looking at this as a win for Binance. I would actually be looking at this as a loss for Binance. It's a win for Coinbase because Coinbase doesn't have their own coin. But for Binance Token itself, Binance Coin itself, that's not so much a win. Both Ripple and Coinbase can focus on registration requirements and whether certain digital assets are securities under U.S. law. The market reaction indicates the ruling is a tremendous event for the industry. The crypto industry has called for legislation to provide clear rules for tokens, and the ruling brought new calls for Congress to clarify the status of digital assets, which absolutely needs to happen. So, again, this is not exactly what you think it is if you're just reading the headlines. Yes, XRP won the case, in that XRP that was sold to individuals on exchanges was not an unregistered sale of securities. However, Torres found that when the company sold $728.9 million of XRP to hedge funds and other sophisticated buyers, that did amount to unregistered sale of securities. So in selling to the public, it was not a security. In selling to sophisticated investors with lots of information, and you're dealing with the actual company Ripple itself, it was treated as a security. So according to this, which is now precedent, this is legal precedent because the ruling's taken place. This is not a decision. This is not up in the air anymore. This is decided. This is a landmark case. This is going to be referred to 20 years from now. XRP in one scenario is a security, according to this case. And that is something that if you're in XRP, you should keep in the back of your mind. That being said, XRP is probably never going to actually do that kind of transaction ever again, and they probably will distribute it in a way that is compliant with this. But this does give us some clarity that any company that sold its assets to sophisticated buyers, which is the terminology that was used, to sophisticated buyers as in hedge funds or just large companies, you might say accredited investors or investors worth over $100 million, whatever the number is. They didn't exactly define it. It means that cryptocurrencies in those categories could be considered securities, which means that this case, while being mostly a loss for the SEC, does actually give them legal precedent to apply this same ruling to other cryptocurrencies that distributed their tokens in that way. So be careful about saying that this is a full-scale win for XRP, because it's not. And I'll tell you something else. Selling $730 million of unregistered securities is going to come with its own fair share of ramifications for Garlinghouse and the rest of XRP. I'm not against XRP. I think it's an okay cryptocurrency. I'm not personally invested in it. I'm more interested in investing in it now that this case is over. I don't like investing in things that are incredibly uncertain like this. It was definitely speculation. XRP is not a security, but the way that it was listed, the way that it was sold, did categorize an unregistered sale of securities. So it's not even so much that XRP is not a security, as Ripple is saying on Twitter, as XRP is saying on Twitter. It is that in most cases, it's not a security. And that does make things a little bit more complicated than they already were. So I wouldn't consider this a 100% win if I were you. I am happy that it happened. I'm okay with this ruling, but be careful. All right. Good deal. Yep. She said in herself, the asset itself is not a security. Right, but the question you have to ask yourself is that if the asset itself is not a security, and that you're indeed, then we're gonna have to see what the ruling happens with on those institutional investors. You're right. I am pretty excited for this. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I don't want to be a Jebby Downer, like Omar said. What I do just want you guys to understand is that that this is a little bit more complicated than it is or it isn't a security. Yeah. Good deal. I do believe that now I would be much more interested in investing in XRP, just so you know. I'm significantly more interested in investing in that asset now that that is settled, and I have a lot more confidence in the XRP cryptocurrency itself. I want you guys to hear me say that, because I'm not trying to bash on XRP. I don't think it's a terrible project. I actually think it's got a lot of use case, so long as it actually gets adopted. By the way, just quick update. ETH just crossed the $2,000 mark again. We may very well see even more rally today. I would not be surprised to see that. All right. Let's read some chat. Jeb is a Bitcoin maxi. No, not a Bitcoin maxi. Oh my goodness. All right. Yeah, actually, then do TA on it. I'd love to. Yeah, let's look at XRP's TA. Why not? Let's do that, and then we'll wrap it out. All right. XRP, TA. What can you say about this? So here's the thing. Whenever you see a major event like this take place all at once, where you rally 3 hours in a day, when you see this kind of thing happen, then you've got to understand that the technical analysis is going to basically be reset from wherever it was. The XRP TA before this moment in time is kind of irrelevant now. There's a few trend lines that are probably still important. I would name these two right here. We did break bullish out of this symmetrical triangle pattern on XRP. Obviously, huge fundamental win for XRP. And I'm not trying to say that's not a win. It is a victory, but there are caveats, and we do need to see how things play out. Breaking bullish out of that symmetrical triangle pattern is naturally a wonderful thing. We've also naturally seen one of the funniest MACDs that I've ever seen in my entire life. That is hilarious. And of course, we've also seen RSI rally all the way up to 88 from 45 in one candlestick. And that does come from the fact that we've seen almost a 90% rally in a single candlestick, 98% from bottom to top wick. So this is obviously a breakout. This is obviously, if you are an investor in XRP or interested in investing in XRP, now's your time. Go. Green light. Boom. I don't know how else to say that. Easy as pie. If you were going to invest in XRP, you love the project, now it's time to go. Like, if you want to load up a bag on XRP, now's the time. I might even consider doing it myself, because I do think at this point, the road is paved again for it to go to at least $1, if not $2. So again, I know some of you guys think I'm hating on XRP. I'm not. I just want to make sure that we have that we have everything here. So XRP has managed to break bullish, and if we look at Lux Algo over here, duh, it's going to be very green. We were actually already green going back to March, but we saw another buy signal here. We ran through all the take profits very quickly, ran all the way up to 92. Green Lux Algo is going to give us great setups. And from here, so long as XRP can stay above this uptrending level of support around, let's see, 60 cents, so long as it can stay above this, then I'm going to be very pleased with its progress and growth. Looking at, let me see if I can find an older chart for XRP. Bitfinex will probably go back there. Looking at these charts, I would also like to see XRP rally up to this downtrending level of resistance and break it. This is the downtrending level of resistance that's been holding XRP down for over half a decade. If XRP can rally up here to $1.25 right here, and break through it, then that's where we're going to be able to be very excited about XRP, because it means that we could be seeing a huge trend change. If you are an XRP investor, I would heavily encourage you to consider getting in now. And then also, if we break above this downtrend, consider getting in even more. I think XRP is a pretty solid project, and I think now that XRP, or even Ripple Labs, I should say, is going to be able to refocus their efforts away from this giant lawsuit to actually developing themselves as a project and as a company, and their efforts, to make banking a lot easier is essentially what XRP is doing. I think XRP is going to be able to do very, very well for itself. I think that this XRP lawsuit has been holding it down for a multitude of years, and now that it's over, I think things are going to be a lot brighter for XRP. So definitely, if you've been thinking about investing in it, now might be the time. Now, there's a lot of volatility. XRP, after it's out of the spotlight, after its 15 minutes of fame are over, it could very well go through a pretty big drop. So just be careful about where exactly you get in. But long term, I think you're going to be in profit if you buy now. Whether you'll be in more profit by buying XRP or Bitcoin or Ethereum or Cardano, who knows? But I'm much more interested in XRP now than I was 3 days ago before this lawsuit was resolved. All right. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. There's definitely something to be said about maybe giving it a couple of days to see where the volatility leads it, because XRP might do some crazy stuff here as it's trying to find its footing. Yeah. And it was coming even if this ruling had not happened. Yeah, it probably was coming to a pretty big breakout. XRP is a solid project. Ripple is very good in their partnerships. Yeah, like I said, I'm definitely not against XRP. I'm definitely not against it. I think it's a solid project from what I know. I added to all my security coins yesterday except XRP. 15 minutes of fame, lol. Come on, Jeb, really? What I mean by that, Geo, XRP is a huge project and it's been in the top 10 for, a decade? It's a very good project. It's been around the block. What I mean is that while it's in the spotlight, it's going to do well, and it might need a little bit of a pullback before it goes into a bigger rally after that spotlight gets pulled off of it. All right. Good deal. All right, guys. Queen said grown men cried yesterday. All right. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I hope you did enjoy today's stream. Make sure to hit that like button. If you have not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And definitely consider loading up on some XRP. I think it's a good project, and I think you'll be very happy with it. All right. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, that is going to wrap it out for today. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Oh, I got a real good feeling. Got a real good feeling.